That new press secretary, she's a gangster.
That video, dude.
She's a gangster. They're prepared. And you know why they're prepared? Because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that fucking Elon Musk flamethrower.
Play that video.
Watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt has come under fire from the ladies on The View for having the guts to stand up to their worn-out political outbursts. Joe Rogan, a political firestarter and podcast juggernaut, had to intervene and put an end to the banshees of daytime TV because their constant insults were so outrageous. Rogan attacked The View for their woke rhetoric on his most recent podcast, calling them a group of fake commentators completely out of touch with reality. To ensure that you never miss fireworks like these, press the bell symbol and subscribe button if you enjoy your commentary uncensored and blazing hot.
That new press secretary, she's a
That
gangster.
video, dude.
She's a gangster. Have you seen that video?
You've never
too?
seen someone more prepared for a question in your life, Jamie.
Have you seen that? You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about?
small point on that. Not the big point, but small point. She was so prepared.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, she's supposed to be prepared.
That's why I
Jamie.
said you've never seen someone
You know
more
why?
prepared.
For that.
They're
that
prepared.
Joe Rogan began by praising Karoline Leavitt for her tenacity and her ability to deftly handle every query that the legacy media threw at her. He emphasized what many Americans have already observed. Leavitt's messaging is unabashedly straightforward, razor-sharp, and confident. To be honest, we've never had a press secretary who is so fact-aware and quick on her feet. Karine Jean-Pierre, on the other hand, was a walking PR disaster when working for President Biden, fumbling with simple responses while reading from a binder and providing little more than political theater. Therefore, having someone as capable, articulate, and bold as Karoline is refreshing. Naturally, however, that is not how the women on The View perceive it. To them, a conservative woman's power and clarity are threats to be ridiculed rather than admired because, God forbid, a woman doesn't repeat their story.
Young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
What alleged offense did Karoline commit? Having the guts to confront the women of The View and make it clear that she would not put up with any more of their woke nonsense. The progressive mob was deeply wounded by just one statement. They weren't prepared not from an unrepentant, young, shrewd conservative woman. However, Karoline remained unflinching, exposing the group's hypocrisy and standing her ground. And guess what? She was right. Whoopi and her co-hosts have lost the plot, something even leftists who don't support Trump, like Bill Maher, have acknowledged. Maher has criticized The View's shift towards identity politics and theatrical anger.
Tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did?
Perhaps it's time to take a good look at yourself in the mirror. That mirror wasn't just handed to them by Karoline Leavitt. She raised it aloft, making them confront their own ridiculousness. Karoline didn't even bother to clap back at the women on The View at first. To be honest, she had more important things to accomplish and more important things to worrying about than wasting time on a panel of daytime divas. However, they refused to stop. They persisted in disparaging her background and mocking her credentials, saying she was hired just because she was a 10. That was the final straw. Karoline retaliated with accuracy, confidence, sharpness, and no apologies because she had been silent for too long. These weren't arbitrary shots. They were direct assaults meant to highlight the petty jealousy and desperation of women who profess to support female liberation but only for women who dare not think differently.
Watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should...
Like a blade, Karoline's remarks cut right through the pompous exterior of The View, direct, incisive, and unavoidable. They were obviously unprepared for the verbal firestorm she launched, even though they were aware of her caustic tone. Her takedown was more than just audacious. It was delivered with such surgical precision and brutal articulation that the women were left reeling. The panel went into a collective tailspin due to the excellent evisceration. Yet, as anticipated, never one to back down when the spotlight was scorching, Whoopi wasn't going down without a fight. In an effort to save face, she stormed back, with her own fire machine, flinging emotional punches and reheated talking points. However, the harm had already been done. Karoline exposed the intellectual weakness of a show that presents itself as tough yet breaks down the instant a conservative woman talks with conviction.
Were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
I actually get sick sometimes when I listen to Whoopi talk. In addition to being a former, well-known movie star with a few good films, what concrete accomplishments or groundbreaking projects has she made to support or empower Black women in America? I'm having trouble finding any, so please feel free to leave them in the comments. Whoopi frequently talks with an air of undeserved authority, as though she had first-hand experience battling for Black women's success. However, after removing the movie credits and celebrity status, what's left? Tone-deaf opinions, misinformed hot takes, and some of the most embarrassing live TV events in recent memory have all afflicted her media presence. She frequently drags the conversation into the mud instead of elevating it. She is not the voice that Black women need. If she is speaking for anyone, Joe Rogan intervened, and it was fire because that's the one thing the mainstream media uses to act as though they care. Look at it.
Oh, that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested henhouse.
Whoa! For the first time in a long while, Joe Rogan brought an M16 to a knife battle. He didn't hold back and struck the mark with every shot, calling out The View for what it has become, a circus of insane commentary masquerading as daytime TV. And he's entirely correct. You start to wonder if the cast members have intellectual rabies because of some of the bizarre things that come out of that panel. Not to be forgotten is Whoopi Goldberg's astounding assertion that race had nothing to do with the Holocauster. Remarks so historically uninformed that it caused widespread indignation. As if that weren't enough, she once said that Black Americans have it worse than women in America, as if the two are incompatible or even comparable in that situation. These aren't just mistakes, they're harmful, divisive statements that cause more harm than good. Finally, a platform user pointed it out. Joy Behar made an attempt to defend her buddy, but even she was unable to handle the criticism Joe Rogan was bringing.
Your job and you're worried about podcasts taking over and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won, and this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons. They're prepared because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that fucking Elon Musk flamethrower.
Play that video.
Joy Behar was completely scolded by Joe Rogan for her ridiculous assertion that he believed in dragons. It was such a ridiculous scene that Rogan couldn't stop making fun of her. He attacked her with his trademark sarcasm, pointing out not only that odd remark, but also a lengthy history of inappropriate statements she has made. Rogan criticized the hypocrisy, theatrics, and the blatant lack of intellectual rigor that characterized Behr's commenting style. It wasn't all fire and rage, though Rogan also took a moment to commend Karoline Leavitt for her intelligence, poise, and razor-sharp thinking. He praised the way she dealt with the press and resisted constant accusations. According to Rogan, Leavitt is a welcome shift to clear speaker who doesn't use flowery language and instead contributes real content. Karoline is the one voice that stands out among the political cacophony in the world.
Think of Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a black person in America today than a woman in Iran. I say we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View.
Bill Maher is absolutely right. The View is the perfect example of what's gone wrong with modern liberalism. Once a platform for discussion, it has devolved into a hub for identity politics, panic, and ideological conformity, a cultural cancer infecting public discourse. Traditional liberal values like free speech, open debate, and individual liberty have been replaced by performative outrage and woke orthodoxy. Today's progressives push absurdities like gender fluidity while silencing critics with cries of hate speech. That's not progress, it's regression. If liberalism is to survive, these ideological tumors must be cut out, and The View should have been the first to go. Amid the media noise, Karoline Leavitt stands out as a bold, independent voice defying woke norms. Joe Rogan's fiery defense of her and his takedown of The View echoed what millions feel. It's time to stop glorifying foolishness and start celebrating courage. Karoline just gave us a masterclass. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.